Welcome to Until Saturday, Sunday Sound Off Edition. I'm Ari Wasserman, joined by two of my favorite colleagues in the entire world. One I've been seeing quite a bit of lately in Dave Ubben, and one that I spent the entire month of August with in person in Miss Dearly. So I'm going to start with you, Max Olson. You covered the Nebraska-Michigan game. You've been doing a hell of a lot of really good work on the website. That story about the Big 12 expansion is just the inspiration that I need to become a better reporter. Really, really great stuff. If you haven't read that yet, I suggest you go read it. And it's good to have you on the show, Max. How you doing?
I'm good, bud. I want to tell you, this was a classic Sunday. We did like the cliche, went to the apple orchard on Sunday. After, and let me tell you, I went to a place that I think you would call heaven. We went out. You know, this is this place in Nebraska City. It's like the Arbor Day Lodge, and they've got all these like great playground stuff for kids. And Theo had a ball. But after like more than an hour outside in 90-degree weather, we go inside to like the restaurant kind of shop place, and I walk around and I see the thermostat, and the thermostat was at 57. You wouldn't even leave. Like, you wouldn't make the podcast tonight if you found a place that had the AC running at 57.
Well, did it feel like 57, or did they just need to go? It felt really
it didn't
cold.
Feel like I was in a freezer. It felt like they probably were having to overcompensate.
Yeah.
It felt amazing. Yeah.
Well, I had a big debate with somebody about this, and I'm happy that you brought this up because I wanted to ask you guys a question. I too did the generic fall family activity this morning. My wife and I took our 2-year-old daughter to a pumpkin patch, and I don't know if this is just my wife getting into the fall festivities. It's supposed to be 94 degrees today, and we're at this pumpkin patch. I'm like, I thought the fun of this was not to be passing out in public from the heat stroke. But I wanted to ask you guys, what is a rational amount of money to spend on pumpkins on October 1st? Because like I spent money today, and like because we decorate them in the front of our house. You know, we get into the fall decor. I don't know why I said decor in this household. We have them all lined up on our front door, and we have a bale of hay out there for some reason, and we like stack it all up, and it looks nice. What is a rational amount of money to spend on pumpkins on October 1st?
Are these like blue chip pumpkins, or do these pumpkins that look like you can get them outside a grocery store? Like what kind?
No, there's some exotic looking ones. Pumpkins got the ones that have like skin complexion issues with all the zits all over them. But
the warts,
but we have like turquoise ones. There's a few white ones that are beautiful, big ones, small ones. It's a nice assortment. It is. Let me say this: it's the nicest assortment of pumpkins on the block, and I take great pride in that.
It's only October 1st, though, Ari. It's early in the game. You better
That's what I told Brett. I said, I don't want to get one up because you showed our plays. You know, we're trying to hide stuff for Halloween season. But how much money do you guys think is too much money to spend on pumpkins on October 1st?
I'm going to say less than you spent. But in general, as I'm not a house decorating guy, my wife keeps it pretty down the middle. But I got to say, anything over like 50 to 75.
Yeah, I was going to say 50.
We spent $94 on pumpkins today.
Ari, that's a lot lower than I was fearing. I thought we'd be well into the tree.
Well, I thought pumpkins were like $3 a piece. We bought like 10 of them or 15.
No, they spend the whole year growing them, so you got to maximize.
I just like that. I left thinking like these things are gonna rot, and I'm gonna have to clean them up, and I'm like $98 or $94 later.
Must make you stoked to go out and buy pumpkins 2 weeks from now, to replace.
Yeah, when those are all dead and rotted because it's been 107 degrees all week. Yeah, I haven't thought about that at all. And then lastly, I wanted to know this because I had this debate with another friend about the air conditioning thing that you brought up, Max. And that is, what is a rational temperature to keep your bedroom at? Like all year round? Like, do you have a set temperature? And then the follow-up to that question, because my wife says this, my friend has said this, I get irate when somebody says it's 74 in here, but it feels like 69. Because the temperature is the literal mathematical definition of how hot it is in the room. There is no 74 but feels like 69. 74 means it's 74. There's no variation in that. Do you agree with that?
Isn't there a wind chill or heat index indoors if you have if your house is in the right spot?
I don't know enough about the sun to dispute that.
All right,
Ari,
here's the thing. I think this entire conversation gets a lot more complicated when you get married, and because at some point you have to have a compromise. But I just think, all right,
because no man and woman ever has chemistry with what they want the temperature to be with their partner, right?
Yeah, this is absolutely true. I've had to sacrifice sleeping with the fan on for quite some time, and it is, that wasn't in our vows. I'll just say that. But
tableside fan, Amazon, $10. Put it on your nightstand and point it at you. That's how I solve it.
Wait, what are you saying, Ivan? You saying you like it warmer?
No, I like it very cold because the sensation of warming puts me out. I'm asleep basically. But Ari, I feel like what happens when you walk into the gigantic refrigerator in Costco? Do you just smile and are you the happiest you've ever been?
Yeah, literally. Max can tell you when we went on the tour of the beer.
Yeah, Pinehouse Brewing in Austin. Yeah.
In Austin, they took us into the fridge and I just stayed in there. I was sweating the whole tour. And then he took us into a freezer room and I was like, I could sleep in here tonight. Humidity affects the feel of a temperature. If you have bad insulation, the temperature can be different near the walls.
Look at this guy. This guy's
I don't know. I just thought if it's 74 degrees, it's 74 degrees, and I hate it. It's like
what's the high end, Ari? Like, what is like the number on the thermostat that you're like, I cannot go to sleep if it's this number? Like, what is the limit for you?
I might be a little bit extreme, but I think 73 is I'm like about to pass out. It's got to be in the low 70s. Or I like it at 68 or 69.
Yeah.
My wife is good at 70.
69. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you are one of these people who live with your thermostat at like 78, 79, 80, I have a friend who lives in LA. I don't know. I mean, I'm windows open in the winter in the Midwest kind of a person. So that's
I stayed in an Airbnb once in Chicago that did not have AC, and I've lived in the South most of my life, if not basically all of my life. That was new to me, and it was like the thick of summer. I don't know how people do that.
Why would you do that?
I didn't know. I didn't
think
left. You had to add. I didn't think you had to add.
Yeah. I would have. There's no shot. There's no amount of money that would have.
I had the window open. It was bad, man.
If someone tells Ari, we just got to get through this for 8 hours, he says, I'm not getting through this for 8 seconds.
Yeah, you can ask Max. Like, my mood shifts if I'm really hot. Like, I'm not very good at dealing with it. And I just feel like I'm at the point. I'm not a rich person, but I'm at the point in my life where there is no amount of money that will separate me from just being comfortable in where I exist. Like, I think that's a basic tenet of humanity. So, okay.
One thing I learned on the road with Ari, and I say this with love, Ari, the times that I experienced you getting to the end of your rope, I learned it's not the longest rope if you're out in the sun.
Yeah. I
put a little sun on Ari and we're done. Shut it down.
I have a short fuse, and that fuse is shortened dramatically if I'm in the heat of the sun.
Yes. I have some thermostat stories that I can't say on the podcast lest I jeopardize a few relationships, but we'll talk about it off air.
Somebody just said they had to sleep in the house with a thermostat instead of 85, and like that literally all I think about is like a prison cell in Rikers Island.
Yeah,
like that's like, I mean, it's not even, it's inhumane.
Let's go to jail. Just go to jail.
Yeah. 88 minutes and 37 seconds into the show, it feels like we're back. All right. Welcome to Sunday Sound Off, guys. This is my favorite show of the week because the company, not just the people who we have on the show, but the company of your voice. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you're watching this on YouTube and want to get the podcast form, the link to the podcast is in the show's description, and vice versa. If you're listening to this on Monday morning, the YouTube channel is in that show description. Subscribe in both places. The more likes, shares, comments, reviews that we can get on both platforms really helps the show grow, and no, we would really appreciate it. The Sunday Sound Off show that we're about to get into is super special because we have a voicemail line, and it allows the people who are listening live or people who listen in podcast form to leave voicemails for us, which we will clip and add into the show so that your voice is a part of it and it feels like more of a community, because, of course, without this community that we've had until Saturday, the show doesn't exist, and, of course, it is as special as it's turned out to be. That phone number is 316-462-9852. Again, that is 316-462-9852. And also make sure to sign up for the Until Saturday newsletter It's a way to get your daily fill of college football right into your inbox. The link, as you guessed it, is in the show's description, and you do not have to be subscribed to The Athletic to get the newsletter. Also, if you're a college football fan and you're not subscribed to The Athletic for college football coverage, I don't know what you're doing with yourself. Like, really reevaluate your decision making, because
Not a college
just because I
football
work
fan.
here, I feel like you're not a serious college football fan if you're not signed up for The Athletics, because nobody can say that they're more bought into and dedicated to covering it the right way than we can, and I feel comfortable saying that. So, okay, let's get into a few pieces of news before we get to the voicemails. Dave and I broke down the games on Saturday night, pretty late at night, and it's going to be awesome to get some fresh perspective from Max, who's just smarter than I am in general. He covered the Nebraska-Michigan game on Saturday, which brings us a few quick bullet points. If you care about the AP poll, Georgia remains number one, but the Bulldogs received 20 fewer first-place votes this week. Michigan, Texas, Ohio State, Florida State all received votes as well. Should Georgia have stayed at number one? If you were a voter, would you have thought about moving them off? Max, let's start with you.
I think I would have, and honestly, standing outside like the media room in at Nebraska's facility, waiting for post-game interviews, catching the very end of Auburn, Georgia. Honestly, guys, I kind of did wonder, like, would Georgia just get dropped out of number one? And we can like debate whether that's an overreaction or whatever. I kind of wondered if Michigan was going to get bumped up to number one, and I think that if you want to play the resume game, certainly they don't win that game, right? But watching Michigan live, it's a very boring form of dominance. I did not write a story off that game because I just could not figure out what to write about it, because it was not very telling about Michigan. But they're really good. They just did whatever they wanted in that game. They did not break a sweat. 0 penalties, 0 turnovers, 1 punt. That's the number one defense in stop right now. Like, Nebraska is like hopeless and helpless as I've ever seen them in that game. And Nebraska's not very good, right? But I thought back to 2019 when Ohio State came to town. That team with Justin Fields and Chase Young and J.K. Dobbins, all those guys, they came and lit up Nebraska, and everyone's sort of like, man, that's probably the best Big Ten team we've seen come here. I think Michigan was like, not better than that team maybe, but I kind of think they're on that level. And I also recognize there's nothing they can even do in the month of October to like sell people on that. It's just going to be all about the games in November.
Well, keep beating people 40-7. That helps.
Right.
Well, the thing that is interesting about the whole where would you rank them debate, and it might get to that point once the playoff rankings start getting revealed, is, are you a resume person? Or are you an eye test person? Are you a combination of both? And I think that if you're playing a bad schedule the way that Michigan is, that the only thing that you can do to maintain that, ranking will be to have games like that where you don't break a sweat. I haven't seen them in person this year. I think that's an interesting thought process, Max, between the 2019 Ohio State team and the current iteration of Michigan. I covered the 2019 Ohio State team, and I think that might have been the best Ohio State team that they've ever had in program history. And a lot of that was the top end talent on that team from like a, first round draft pick status. But I don't know if that Ohio State team was that deep across the board. Like, the thing about Michigan is I don't think they have like 5 first round picks, but like everybody on their roster is a draftable player. So like spread out, I still think that could be pretty lethal as well. So I'm excited to see, what Michigan can do and the heights that team can get to. We have a few Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan games coming up. But
also, I thought JJ McCarthy was good. Like, I thought he was really good just seeing him live. And the way that team is set up, he doesn't even really have to throw for 200 yards in these games.
That's right.
I mean,
and the incredible thing about that, Max, is that he hasn't had to do that against Ohio State either. Like, they're built to beat good teams that way as well. But based on what you saw with Georgia on television and what you saw with Michigan, like, if you just had to guess right now, throwing darts at, nobody knows who the best team in college football is right now. Ranking a top 5, I think, would be an interesting, thought process. Everybody's would be different because everybody ranks teams differently. But is Michigan, in your mind, if you had to guess, with the information that you have, the best team in college football right
now? I almost would be more inclined to go Florida State. Just the way I would look at this stuff. And I'm guessing you guys might too, if you hadn't.
I do. Dave left him out of the top 5, his own top 5 yesterday.
Maybe not as a statement about them, but more about a statement about some of the other teams that we've seen. I think if you want to make a case for them as number 1, number 2, number 3, I buy it. I buy it for Florida State.
The thing I like about Florida State is that they have the resume with those 2 wins, and they've also looked sexy as hell. Like I think they have both. I don't know how they could not be in your top 5, but I also understand too.
So you're adjusting down because LSU is not as good as you thought. Is that kind of the?
That is legitimately somewhat of a factor, and then also BC. Like they're really bad, and so you got to show up. Like again, we can talk about we care about teams at their best, but then we're having a Michigan conversation, and part of the reason why Michigan that we're taking them seriously is because they're not winning these games 31-17. They're not winning them 27 14, and they're 10-6 at half. They're just like laying the hammer down on teams, and they're strangling all these offenses, and they just pound you, and then get it across, and then kick it to you, and then dare you to come at them, force you to go 3 and out, do that over and over and over again.
You know what I have the hardest time doing as just a person ranking and thinking about ranking teams is that I am really down on Clemson, right? Clemson is no longer a top 25 team. But I think we all know from people who watch the sport and cover it, and seasoned fans who listen to the show, if you watched Florida State play that Clemson team that day, it's really hard for me to separate what I know Clemson has become and giving Florida State the credit they deserve for winning that specific game. Like, they don't get to call that a top 10 win. They don't even get to call it a top 25 win. But I'd bet anything if I could find the answer to that was a top 10 win.
Well, this is why this goes into the Heisman voting, and this goes into why I don't really like polls, because they sort of skew conversations. Are we in agreement that Clemson is probably one of the 20 to 25 best teams in the country, perhaps slightly higher, right? They don't have the wins or the resume or any of the things that, they've had somewhat of a tough schedule early on. And it is what it is. I don't blame voters for not putting them in our top 25, but if we're living in the real world here and not sort of voting as we have to vote so that we don't have 10,000 people banging down our doors for, why'd you have this team over this team or this team over this team?
It's too many undefeated teams right now to put
I get it, but also Clemson's one of the 20 best teams in the country right now. Right. So I think that will bear itself out over time, which gets into what some of the things we talk about on Saturday night, where it's like, I mostly care about top 25 wins on the back, at the end of the season, because that's the full picture. I do not care at all of what a team was ranked when you beat them. That's.
Yeah, and I think the good news is that as teams start to lose and maybe Clemson catches a little bit of heat, then that will be represented when we're ranking Florida State when it matters. So,
can I say something potentially really dumb? I think if you were playing like Michigan, Georgia tomorrow, I would almost lean Michigan, because I think they're a little bit more of a finished product today. That's not saying Georgia can't get where they're going to, I'm sure they're going to end up by the end of this season. And that's not to say Michigan has no flaws and nothing to improve on here over the next 2 months. It's not just as simple as you got to show up and stay healthy. But I think that Michigan team has got a lot figured out. And it's kind of weird that we're not going to see any. I mean, could they end up in some of those BC type games like you mentioned, David? Probably. I mean, there's it's going to be a long month ahead, but I think they've got, from an identity standpoint and just experience standpoint, they definitely know what they are.
I almost wonder, and this might sound silly, but when you only have the 2 big time games, and we got to get through this 2 months where we're not going to have a marquee game, there's almost nothing to look ahead to, right? You're not going to look ahead to a game 5-6 weeks in the future. It's like, okay, this week we're going to demolish, Nebraska. This week we're going to demolish, Bowling Green or whatever. But I'm with you, Max. I think Georgia, for all the pieces that they're replacing, I mean, I think Michigan might beat Georgia by, double digits if they played tomorrow. By November, that might change, because Michigan has already been through all this. They didn't replace a ton. And obviously Georgia's talent is what Georgia's talent is. But right now, I'm totally with you on this with Michigan.
I wrote a column for tomorrow that I'm not going to tell you the premise of, because we can't get into this debate on the show tonight. But there are certain questions in the column that I want to read off as it pertains to what we get to look forward to, which is Which team is going to emerge from the Pac-12? Will it be USC, Oregon, or Washington? Which team is going to win the Big Ten East? Will Michigan keep its stranglehold on that side of the conference? Will Ohio State reemerge as the conference's dominant program, or is Penn State for real? Will Alabama rise from the ashes and emerge from its division in a year where the SEC is down, or will Georgia just win it again? And can Texas shock the world and actually emerge from the Big 12 before bolting for the SEC? And are we undervaluing Oklahoma? Like, there are legitimately 10 different programs.
Sounds like you did just read your column mock test, but keep going.
Yeah,
No, those are I read those that section. You don't know what the premise is.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. But I use that section to just try to reiterate that there are 10 teams right now that I think you can make a legitimate case could win the national championship this year, which is something, if you've ever listened to anything I've ever said on the show, to be saying that on October 1st and not be looking at the 247 Sport composite rankings is a tremendous amount of personal growth that I will pat myself on the back for. And we get to find out all the answers to these questions. And every week there's more context. And I just am so excited. I think the number one question that I have is Penn State really good? Is Penn State for real this year is the thing that I am most fired up about seeing. And we get to see that here in a few weeks. So, yeah, Chris Callahan said the 12-team playoff would have been a blast this year. That is the opposite idea of what I think. Yeah. But yeah, I think that would be, I think it's worse. Yeah.
I had an idea of what this column might be. And, I think Owen and I have both come around to what it probably is.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think that's a good segue, Max, to take a quick break. And then we'll get into the voicemails.
Proper hydration isn't just if you're going to run a marathon or you're a superhuman athlete or you've got some big competition coming up. It's about daily maintenance, whether you're traveling and jumping on flights like we are during the season, or standing on the sidelines of your kids' sports games, or going to college football games. Whatever you're doing, you need hydration to be your best. It's essential, and Liquid IV is the #1 powered hydration brand in America. The one thing you're missing in your daily routine. You can use it in the morning, before you work out. You get in the afternoon, you get those afternoon sort of doldrums. Pep up with a little Liquid IV after a night out with friends, or, like you said, if you're on a flight and you need to make sure that your body is still operating. With just one stick, you can hydrate real life twice as fast as water. Plus, get essential vitamins and 3 times the electrolytes as leading sports drinks. I tried some recently, loved it. The lemon lime flavor was fantastic, and you just feel refreshed, and you're doing something good for your body. So real people, real flavor, real hydrating. Grab your Liquid IV in bulk nationwide at Costco, or you can get 20% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use code Saturday at checkout. That's 20% off anything when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code Saturday at liquidiv.com.
Innovation is changing the game, and with an investment in Invesco QQQ, you can access some of the top NASDAQ 100 companies revolutionizing the sports you know and love, all in a single ETF. 100 innovators, one fund. Invesco QQQ is the official ETF of the NCAA. There are risks involved with investing in ETFs, including possible loss of money. ETFs are subject to risks similar to those of stocks. Investments focused in the technology sector are subject to greater risk and are more greatly impacted by market volatility than more diversified investments. The NASDAQ 100 index comprises the 100 largest non-financial companies traded on the NASDAQ. An investment cannot be made directly into an index. NCAA is a trademark of the National Collegiate Athletic Association. Invesco is not affiliated with the NCAA. Before investing, consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses. Visit Invesco.com for a prospectus containing this information. Read it carefully before investing. Invesco Distributors, Incorporated.
There are a few bullet points that I forgot to mention before we took our break. I want to mention them quickly in passing before we get to the voicemails. Pete Thamel reported that Riley Leonard's injury isn't season-ending, which, if you saw that at the end of the Notre Dame game, that was a very scary scene. And I just thought he and his team have played really gutsy football this year, and I'm just relieved that that's the case, because Duke has been a pleasure to watch. And then, of course, USC dropped from number 8 to number 9. I don't know why that's a bullet point other than to remind me that I'm going to have to pay Andy Staples $1,000 in the next few months. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun thing to get to. And I think we've got a USC question that we can break down a little bit more. So what do you guys say? Want to get to the first voicemail?
Let's do it.
All right.
Hey guys, my name is Dr. Grind in Houston, Texas. Is Brian Kelly the new Jimbo Fisher, a washed up old coach who's way overpaid and who's going to do nothing for LSU? Would love to hear your thoughts. Also, I got to say I agree with Ubben's take that the Rose Bowl is overrated.
Well, maybe he can leave a 5-star review to cancel out the 9 1-stars we got because of you. But I'll let you tackle this one first because I feel like, Ubben, you were pretty high on Brian Kelly coming into the year, obviously. Your take couldn't look worse than it does right now. And I say that lovingly.
It could look worse. It could look worse, sorry.
I really don't know how it could.
They could have lost to Arkansas.
They could have lost to Arkansas.
They almost did. They almost did it for you.
But they didn't, Ari.
But
yeah,
the thing that I thought was interesting about
ahead.
Brian Kelly is that everybody, like, I don't know, I thought it was a weird hire at first. And then after it kind of marinated a little bit, I thought this is a great hire because he's really, done a pretty good job of coaching football at Notre Dame. And I thought that, we might find out that he got Notre Dame to its peak. LSU has had, 3 coaches in a row win national championships there. It just seemed like it was a good move for him and LSU. And with all the pieces on the team that they have this year, it's like, I don't know how it's possible that they forgot to play defense the way that they did. And it calls into question, do you feel as good about their head coach as you might have a month ago?
Yeah, I feel like it's fine. Like, they've built the secondary out of transfers that have not worked out. This is a bad year. He won the West in year 1. I don't know how many times we got to say this. Like, yes, LSU had some confounding losses. They weren't that impressive in a lot of spaces. I think that Florida State game in year 1 actually hung in people's minds because they looked so bad in that game. And then they got punked by Tennessee later in the year. And I think people sort of wrote them off. But he still won the West. They still beat Bama. Like, that's a real thing that happened. And that's something that Jimbo has not done. And I think, the Jimbo comparison is sort of complicated because you look at the Florida State program that he left behind, and there was some foundational rot that if you wanted to be like a raised eyebrow at Jimbo, like, what's going on here? There was a lot of evidence to say, like, this guy has seen his best years pass him by. Time will tell if that's true. But you look at Notre Dame, and it seems like Brian Kelly had Notre Dame in pretty decent shape. Marcus Freeman has taken over and done a really good job there. And so, no, I think they're fine. I think you lose games to good teams sometimes, and LSU is still fine. This is a bad year. Their roster composition, they're paying the price for not having a secondary that's built up. But, I just have no big picture qualms with Brian Kelly at this point. I get it. I get the frustration, but it feels a little reactionary, Mr. Grant. And that's odd because, especially considering your thoughts on the Rose Bowl, you seem like a very level-headed, smart guy that I think we have a lot in common.
The doctor I thought had a really thought-provoking take, but then he lost me at the Rose Bowl comment, and now that makes me just very suspicious of the premise. Isn't that kind of how you feel, Ari?
I don't know, like, what everybody throwing shade at the Rose Bowl is. It was my favorite game I think I've ever covered.
It's not that the Rose Bowl is bad. It's not that it's bad. It's just that they need to chill out a little bit. Just chill out a little bit. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. I honestly, literally have no idea what that means. But
it means
we could unpack it, but it just sounds exhausting. Ari,
listen, I get it. I get it. We can see the sunset in the mountains from the press box, and you're in LA and all these things, and it's like very cool. But also, like, it's great. It's a good bowl game. It's not like you're not witnessing a new level of human existence by being at a Rose Bowl. And people, I feel like, want to act like it is. It's like, come on, guys. I get that it's awesome. I'm not saying it's not awesome. I'm just saying chill out a little bit.
That sound you hear is more 1-star comments coming. All right.
Sorry. Honestly, Max, I don't know if you feel this way, but like I know now less about what he meant than before the comment. All I heard was that everybody who has a beachfront resort, chill out. the ocean's cool, but just chill out. Like that's what I heard. Here's the only take from the Rose Bowl that is acceptable if you're going to neg it. In my opinion, it's a damn shame that half of them or more than half of them don't mean anything anymore. In a new system where you're playoff obsessed, and I am playoff obsessed, I wish that the Rose Bowl had real stakes that weren't exhibition games every single year. And if it were up to me and I were in charge of this whole thing, it's not a unique take. I think everybody agrees with it. It would just be the national title game every year. I hope that however this playoff game manifests or whatever it is, that the Rose Bowl is front and center in propping up our sport because the venue and the game is that great.
I think part of it is the conversation around it. Like, I remember when TCU played in it, and people acted like TCU playing in the game was like introducing a flesh-eating virus into like it's fine, guys. It's okay. People were acting like TCU being in that game was like a disgrace to this. We got to get the Big Ten and the Pac-12. If it's anything else, we might as well not even play the game. I'm saying, just chill out. And then like the forced conversation of like, we're going to be, being very difficult in all the playoff discussions and all the 12 teams and all these things, all of it. Just chill out. That's all I'm saying.
David's that guy that had a Zune for a long time and told all the iPod people that they're idiots,
You text and
never
green,
owned a Zune. No, never owned a Zune. Don't.
Have you had an Android phone?
I did for 2 weeks, and my wife got mad, and I changed it. So
okay,
I bought a very nice Samsung, and she was like, "I can't text you from my computer. Please get rid of this phone." And
yes.
I was like,
To respond to Brian Kelly thing, I think the two things that come to mind for me, first of all, is that LSU has done it before and done it a bunch, and A&M has never done it before, right? And so, like, I know the SEC is about to get tougher, but even year one of Brian Kelly showed you like it's a very high ceiling at LSU, and so I think certainly Kevin Sumlin, Jimbo Fisher, like they're changing the ceiling, but they're still bumping on it, right? So I kind of think, I suppose it's possible Brian Kelly went to LSU for just money and prestige, but like I think he really, really, really wants to win a national championship.
Yeah.
Yep.
And has not done so. Jimbo Fisher has done so, and I think that still matters. Like I don't think that Brian Kelly is going to be mailing it in here. I'm not saying that's going on at A&M, but I don't quite think this is like some big albatross. And I agree with David. We're not even 20 games into this tenure. Like it feels too early to allege any dysfunction.
That was the thing that kind of irked me a little bit from the question. It's like Jimbo Fisher is almost a decade removed from winning a national championship and has had 5 seasons at A&M that you could say were pretty disappointing given the contract and the promises that were made for the God contract that he got. And if I'm not mistaken, like Brian Kelly already took LSU further in year one than he has at A&M in 5 years.
Yes.
In the SEC. So like, it's like Jimbo Fisher is a really hard comparison because it's been longer. So I think that this LSU season has been very disappointing. I find myself disappointed, but I did buy into a lot of what Dave thought before the year because I thought they were rational takes. They had better playmakers that were more identifiable and proven. They had a coach in Brian Kelly that has a pretty good track record of winning, and they had a quarterback who had a chance to be really good this year. Those things didn't all turn out to be the way we thought they would. Harold Perkins hasn't played the way that we thought he would. Some things that were unforeseen have happened, but I don't think that like Brian Kelly sucks as a coach now because of it. Give it time. Everything takes time. Next one.
Hi, this is Ben from Atlanta. First question, are you guys going to change the name of the show to Ari and the Crepe Crusader? And the second question is, are we seeing a tectonic shift in the SEC and now the East has become much better than the West?
Max, I wanted to get your take on the crepe thing. Have you ever ordered a crepe by yourself in an airport as an adult male?
No. Have I ever ordered a crepe at breakfast with either by myself or with a group of people? I could probably less than 5 times. Not a big.
My point is that there's also a market inefficiency on crepes in general. I would describe Knoxville, Tennessee, as a crepe-rich environment, and I feel like we need more of those in the country. But Ari takes it too far here. I believe, Ari, you compared crepes to pixie sticks in a text conversation yesterday, and that offended me on a level so deep, I don't even know
because it
how
just
to
seems
recover
like
from that.
it just seems like a gimmicky dessert-ish type, like carnival food. It doesn't strike me as something an adult should be eating in the airport. Listen, I'm not like Mr. I've got abs and, have 18 Weight Watchers points to work with a day. Like, I get after it, man. Like, I just like, it just doesn't. And I'm not a sweet person. I'm a salty and savory person. So maybe that's the biggest thing for me. I have never ordered a crepe in my entire life. And I've never been in a situation where I was like, God damn it. The only thing that's missing out of my life right now is a crepe place.
You mean to tell me you're out of crepes today?
Where's a crepe store? It's never happened.
I will say, Ari, Dallas does not have a great crepes in general.
Why don't you know what they say?
I lived there for a long time.
Convince people that they need something and then provide it for them is the quickest way to get rich. You've got an idea. Get some venture capital.
We're gonna pivot the podcast to becoming a crepe stand in Clyde-Warren Park, and Ari
Dallas, Texas is gonna cling to the crepes.
The crepe really cooks when you go into the Sweetland. It is capable of being savory. It can thrive in the savory realm, but it's at its best when you have it in the sweets. It's a bit like, Jaden Daniels putting him in the pocket and just asking him to throw constantly. That's the savory crepe. If you want to maximize it, you got to mix in some sweet, mix in some QB draws, some called runs, some student body right, have him run behind blockers. And that is when the crepe is going to live at its peak.
Are you the dude, though, that will go to IHOP and order, like, the dessert pancakes?
No, I'm a pancake purist, actually. I don't like
love pancakes.
Fancy pancakes. I love pancakes, but I love maple syrup enough that I cannot really mess with.
I just don't know if you got, like, the confetti pancakes with the whipped cream.
No, I don't. No. I don't
strawberry
do
icing and all that.
At home, or is it only at airports?
Ari, actually, I tell you what, Ari, you know who does have good crepes in Dallas? I want you to do this as homework. Go to the original Pancake House over on Northwest Highway. Yes,
that's where I live. You know where I live?
Yeah.
I live on Northwest Highway and Midway. Yeah.
Either way, Ari, go get some crepes from original Pancake House, and let's revisit this conversation at some point this fall.
But like, that's the thing. It's like I would go into the original Pancake House, which I've been to. I take my daughter there for breakfast all the time.
I love that place
because it's less than a mile from my house. And I'm like, of all the things that are here, rye bread, eggs and cheese, potatoes, pancakes, like it wouldn't even occur to me to order a crepe ever.
That sounds like a you problem. They're basically French tacos, Ari. They're a food delivery system.
Grow up.
This might be Ari's worst take. Worst take. And you're the one arguing against the 12-team playoff, Ari, and this is a worst take.
Yeah. Well, maybe the crepes are exciting. The 12-team playoff is just like delaying that's
I mean, there's got to be some sort of crepe bet later on. I think we're just certainly
I'm sure they're fine. Like, I don't think they taste bad. I just think it's bizarre behavior to be walking around at 6:30 in the morning in the Denver airport looking for crepes. I didn't say you're an asshole if you eat them or they taste bad. It's just like, get yourself an egg and cheese on a bagel and be an adult. Like,
As to the question, the divisions are going away. These things are always cyclical, right? Early in the divisions, you had Tennessee and Florida just engaging in like nuclear warfare basically every September. And then you had the Alabama dominance. But no question, for this year, the East looks a lot stronger to me. You look around, obviously Mizzou's undefeated, Kentucky's undefeated. They both looked pretty good. Mizzou, they got the nation's leading receiver in Luther Burden, for the record. And South Carolina is okay. Tennessee has got some stuff to figure out, but they're still dangerous. They can beat a lot of teams. And, of course, you've got problematic but full of potential Georgia. So the East, to me, definitely looks
Vanderbilt.
Well, they're under construction at the moment.
But it's not – I don't know. Maybe I'm not the SEC purist here, but is it bizarre when the East is better?
No, it ebbs and flows.
Because I look at the programs, like Florida's been badass, Georgia's badass.
Yeah,
Tennessee's had its years. I mean, I guess like Mizzou and Kentucky and Vanderbilt are all kind of have been what they've been, but
Man, that's
you know,
two-time
I don't look
SEC
at
East champion Mizzou you're talking about, all right?
yeah, but I'm just saying, you know, I know you got Alabama and LSU, but like I think maybe from top to bottom, it's not as big of a discrepancy as you know some might think. The way
Well,
the
but
question was asked,
the
it was
East, like the last six, probably I don't know, 6 of the years, basically until Georgia like got back to where they were, the East was really bad for a long time. I mean, the SEC championship game was trending toward ritual sacrifice for a lot of years, and that is not the case currently. And that's not just because Georgia has become a behemoth.
Yeah,
I
is it okay to
don't
say that it's
love-
closer now? But I still think the West is better.
Not in 2023. I mean, you could make the case, but I think in 2023, on the whole, I think I'd take the East.
I also am kind of with Max on this one. I kind of think that like we think the East is better, but they're actually not. There is I just want to I've got two things I wanted to say. One, there's a psychopath in the comments, Cam. Can you block him? He said, I don't love crepes, but I take them over a bagel sandwich. This guy needs to be escorted out of here.
Reported.
Like, call his name, say our show sucks, say whatever you got to say, personally attack me and my appearance, but don't get this shit out of here, okay? We're not going to live.
I love a good bagel sandwich, Ari. On this, it's like we need to call a truce over our shared love of bagel breakfast sandwiches.
What you taking? If one had to be removed from Earth, crepes or everything.
By the way,
bagel
you know what
with-
you guys know what I made for breakfast this morning?
What?
Sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Homemade
that's an
biscuits?
adult breakfast.
Homemade biscuits, Max?
No, at the can, but
Oh,
still
well,
better than a crepe.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that. I don't know about
Which
that.
one would you remove from Earth, Dave?
So here's the thing. I am a breakfast universalist in that all breakfast food is the best food, and I will not remove any of it from the universe. I would sacrifice myself before depriving the world of a bagel sandwich.
So it would actually
and/or
be
a
hard for
crepe.
you to just be like never having a crepe again to save bagel sandwiches.
Well,
Like you'd
in
have
general,
a debate about that.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. In general, when I'm doing hard breakfast, I need the savory sweet balance. So I try to go
can't do this
like
shit,
so
man.
when I get
Can't
it.
work in these conditions.
Sweet is not not a adult necessity. Sweet is a
In
Hershey's
breakfast
Kiss
it
after
is.
dinner.
Ari, we as a society have had this debate, and we have decided that you can have cake for breakfast, and that is a breakfast food. Okay, so I usually, if I'm going to get a sweet crepe, I balance it out with like a breakfast egg or like a sausage, egg, and cheese like croissant on the side, and so you get that. You don't get the overwhelming sugar, and then you get still a little bit of your fun with your vegetables and your bagel sandwich. I love when I'm going hard on the breakfast. I go sweet savory combo every time. Every time.
How many people have stopped listening to this podcast at this point? Oh my god,
David, I've said it before. I'm gonna say it again. You're a freaking freak, dude. Like there's something wrong with you.
I can't believe it, Ari. You of all people are arguing against sweets in breakfast. You have got to embrace the sweet at breakfast, Ari. I can't
Breakfast is
believe-
eggs,
Oh
cheese,
my gosh.
sausage, bacon, and any assortment of bread that you can come up with.
This really
That's
is your
breakfast.
worst take, Ari. This really
There's no
is, like,
dessert element to breakfast to me.
This is the most insane take I've ever heard. You need to start your day with joy, Ari, not like a bruising running
know.
game and
And
a
hot,
play action pass to
Soft,
the tight
warm,
end.
and delicious carbs in a salty and savory way is nirvana for me.
Oh my gosh.
You take
Ari,
birthday cake over
embrace
pizza?
Maple
No, you
syrup,
don't.
man. Maple syrup, Nutella.
That's the only
fruit.
thing that you could have into the other category, but I don't view breakfast as a time to eat dessert. That's not my viewpoint. I'd rather have a big fat
Where do you
biscuit.
stand on muffins, Ari? I'm scared to ask this question.
Yeah, muffins are pretty good. I'd rather have a biscuit though. I'd
That's
rather have
cake.
a
Middle
waffle.
Muffin
ground.
is cake. Muffin is a cake masquerading. And you also, if I'm not mistaken, Ari, had an anti-cupcake take last week. That's so insane. I'm not going to repeat it out loud. And you can
I
tell me
like
the
cupcakes.
difference
I'm not
between-
going to buy them out of a vending machine in public.
Ari, the only difference between a muffin and a cupcake is the frosting. If we're keeping it 100 right now.
yeah, that's true. Wouldn't buy it out of a vending machine though.
I just don't understand a human that would be and I listen, there's a Sprinkles vending machine up
Yeah,
the street from
I've seen 'em.
where I live. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I wouldn't even eat one in my car. I'm just saying, as an adult man with a suitcase, I would not walk around an airport with a Sprinkles muffin out of a vending machine.
No,
and
there's
eat it
no
with a
way. If
fork.
someone handed one
not
to you,
something-
you'd say, "Oh, sweet, thank you." but
Sweet,
you're
and
not
maybe
going
put it
out
in the
of your way.
bag, but
Yeah.
you got to be appearance matters too here. Show some pride. Okay,
No,
you're walking around
no.
with cupcakes and crepes in public, and it's just not the
Who
look
am I
that I
trying to
want.
impress? Sorry, who am I trying to impress?
Have your
I'm
fat
married.
moments.
I'm
Sorry,
off the market. I'm doing
best
what I
days
want.
are my best days are behind me, Ari. At this point, I'm just trying to squeeze whatever joy we can get out of this, turn we have around the sun as many times as we get to do it.
Yeah. Okay. Next question.
Yeah, hi, Chris from Connecticut, just calling to ask on the Pac-12. Everything everyone is saying is that USC is the third best team, but the team that didn't play this past week, Washington State, seems to have an argument. They don't play each other head-to-head, but they are undefeated, have a game in October at Austin, and then obviously the Apple Cup at the end of the year. But is USC the fourth best team in the Pac-12?
Hey, by the way, I forgot to mention SEC West stronger in SP Plus right now. Even if you take out Vanderbilt and just do the top 6 on each side, it's still stronger. But this episode's not about that.
Are you an SP Plus guy? I do like SP Plus.
I don't know. I think that stats are important, but I also hate them because they can be molded to make whatever point you want to make. Like, I sometimes think that stats are stupid, and one of my favorite stand-up comedians is Bill Burr, and I've actually listened to a few of his bits with Max, but there's one where he goes, stats are stupid because you can mold them any way that you want. You just type a stat into imright.com and it spits out whatever you want to say. It's like, and then the one that he used was most shark attacks happen in shallow water. And he goes, well, no shit, because that's where the people are. That's, it's not enlightening to say, well, I don't want to go into the ocean because that's where the shark attacks happen. There's no correlation between deep water and shallow water, but you use a stat and it makes you feel like it's profound when it's not. I sometimes think that college football stats, like if you pick the right ones, can send the wrong message. But for the most part, I guess it's a useful tool.
I feel like we need to have Lee Corso on this podcast because we need to come to terms with the fact that we have become a Wazoo disrespecting podcast, and I feel like we need to rectify this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that. Oregon State victory is probably a better victory than half the undefeated teams have in terms of just like their resume. And Cam Ward, I mean, weren't you the one who basically discovered Cam Ward, Max? You read a huge feature on him before.
I wrote a huge feature on him when he committed to Washington State. Yeah,
and he's one of the most exciting players in college football. And I think that, like, when you think about the Pac-12, you think about exciting offenses, dynamic quarterbacks, and getting through a tough schedule. And so far, Washington State has kind of done all those things. It's crept into the, top 21. And here's the thing, though, when we're directly comparing them to USC that I have a hard time with. If you listen to the Saturday night show, you heard my 10-minute tirade about how this is the biggest disappointment and waste of talent I've ever seen. That would have been the hyperbolic version. I reined it in a little bit. I just said it's a sad, sad story what's happening at USC right now because their defense is so bad. But at a certain point, like, do you just say they have Caleb Williams and just kind of just slam the door shut? Like, how far down the line do you want to go before you're like, yeah, fourth best team, fifth best team? It's like third best team is a pretty big insult. You start going into the fourth, and that's not taking away from Washington State because they're a good team. Mm-hmm. But this is a team that was a half away from making the playoff last year and has maybe one of the best players we've ever seen playing the quarterback position right now. Like, I don't know how far down the line
it comes down to the conversation we had last night about eye test versus resume. You watch USC and you say, I mean, that's probably one of the 10 best teams in the country, maybe higher. But you look at what Wazoo has actually done on the field, they've been significantly more impressive than USC, I would say. So that's sort of, Washington State and USC, if you're talking them, that is sort of the eye test versus the resume.
But was there any point in time on Saturday that you thought USC would lose?
No.
I kind of didn't think so either. I mean, it was like, hey, that's crazy that Colorado pulled this off at the end here. But
yeah, if they had got that,
I think that's going to be like the thing
they were going to lose.
Is we're going to keep watching them and we're going to keep saying, man, on the wrong day they're in trouble, and they're just going to kind of keep getting away. But I do think they're, if you look at the schedule,
yeah.
I mean, there are 3 teams on their schedule right now, not counting a Pac-12 title game, that are better than them. If you want to throw in Notre Dame today, right?
I think you can make that case. Yes.
Yeah. Do they play
No.
Do they play Oregon State? Because Oregon State's defensive or offensive front against USC's.
I don't believe that
defensive
they
front.
play Oregon
They don't.
State.
Okay.
The one
be a
that I
very
think is
bad
also
matchup.
kind of lurking here and interesting. I really like Washington State. I thought that was a huge statement by Oregon State on Friday night, obviously. I kind of wonder if UCLA is kind of lurking here a little bit too. I mean, it's easy to discount just because you've got the true freshman quarterback, but we're about to find out because they're about to play Washington State and Oregon State back to back. And I think honestly, how those games go also prop up those teams if they handle their business against UCLA. But Washington State, honestly, that offense is right there with Washington and USC in terms of producing explosive plays. And I think that when they play some of these really good teams, one of them's just like going to end up digging a hole against them, right? And just be like, oh crap, we're down, 31-13, and we're not going to win this game. I mean, I think that's going to be the fun and dangerous thing about the Cougars.
It definitely could be. I think with UCLA, they feel like a high floor, low ceiling team to me. It's hard for me to see them truly contending for the Pac-12, but it's also hard for me to see them, winning less than like 7 games.
Well, here's the thing too with USC that I think we have to take into account.
And by the way, I'm not saying UCLA is better than USC. I'm definitely not.
Yeah.
They could build up and it become another really tough one for USC.
Mm-hmm.
I've drank a lot of haterade when it comes to USC this year because my expectation of what Lincoln Riley was going to turn that program into, they haven't come close to that vision. And maybe that was just me being wrong. But I feel like if you took UCLA or one of the other Pac-12 teams and you put USC's current team on those uniforms or in those uniforms, like if you put Washington State's uniforms on this USC team, I think that they would be getting way more respect as a team coming out of nowhere than the team that's supposed to contend for a national championship. Like I think their expectations neg how we view them. Does that make sense? So like that.
Yeah, but when you bring back a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, I mean, it is what it is. There's always going to be crazy expectations, whether that's fair or not.
But the question is whether or not you think it's rational to say that Washington State is a better football team than USC. They might not be as disappointing right now, but I don't think they're a better football team.
They're not a better football team, but they're definitely more accomplished.
Yeah.
I also don't think the conversation around USC has been like, I don't think you're hearing people constantly being like, well, this isn't going to be good enough to beat Georgia or good enough to be, what I mean? Like, I think it's all very relative to like, can this win the Pac-12?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that,
even
though we expected like national championship, like ceiling, possibly like at least top 4 ceiling for this team. I think right now it's like purely about the mission in front of them.
Max,
like,
I think that's
how do
what
they
happens.
Get to the Pac-12 title game?
I think that step, is this good enough to beat Georgia step, happens once they're good enough to get through their own conference.
Yeah.
Like they got all that stuff at Oklahoma because everybody knew Oklahoma was going to win the Big 12.
Correct.
Like USC hasn't even gotten past the second or third level yet to even get to the bonus round where people are comparing you to Alabama or Alabama or Georgia or Ohio State or Clemson. Like they gotta get through. And like if you go look at their schedule this year, I think there might be a 0% chance they finish undefeated this year.
There's also the crazy thing that I think this is a credit to the excellence of Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams. I mean, we've all like somehow just completely moved past the fact that like USC was bad in 2021 too. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the nature of it now, right? Like you just think, oh, they flipped it. They got all these great players. They got all these blue chips guys in, but like, they're still like, they were still building from a pretty bad foundation. I'm not trying to make excuses.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
It makes sense. It's like maybe the thought of them flipping it in 2 years and being good enough to compete at the highest level was an irrational thought process. Maybe like I'm the problem.
Max, you have paid a lot closer attention to the Big 12 than I would. During the run of Big 12 titles that OU had, I'll say specifically under Lincoln, we can count the ones where he was OC. Were there teams in that league that you would say were better than this Washington and this Oregon team? There might have been. I might be forgetting. I'm asking honestly. I don't remember one, but I could be forgetting somebody.
Oh gosh, yeah, you're putting me on the spot there. I'd have to go year by year there. I mean, I'm sure I'm going to forget some, but no, it's a solid point. I mean, it's a solid point. I think that this is a different. This is a different, like even I would say also like if you want, I don't want to, I'm not disrespecting them at all, but if you want to say like the second tier of contenders in the Pac-12 are also just really good this year.
Yeah, that's part of the conversation too. If you dropped this USC team in the, I don't know, the ACC or something that just doesn't have the same depth, it might change the conversation a little bit because you look forward to their schedule and you don't feel like what Ari's saying. And I think we all agree that it's a little bit doom and gloom. Like, I mean, I would say the odds of them losing 2 games are higher than them going undefeated. I don't know about 0% chance they go undefeated, but I would definitely say the odds of them losing 2 are higher than going, running the table here.
Yeah, and I just want to remind people too, as we get into the final question, our newsletter, Jana Bardall highlighted some illuminating stats from the USC Colorado game in the Until Saturday newsletter. Just wanted to remind people to go subscribe to that to get those. USC surrendered 8 plays of 20 plus yards, as well as 193 rushing yards at Colorado. The Buffaloes entered Saturday averaging just 55 yards per game. So USC let them rush for over 3 times their normal amount. That stat seems wrong that I just read. So disregard that. But in the newsletter, it's correct. And that thing about that game more than anything isn't that I ever thought that USC was going to lose, Max, as you were watching it. It was just that feeling of like, they can't stop them. Like that feeling shouldn't exist. Like no shot to stop them. And that felt that way the entire second half.
Yeah. I think
that's alarming to me.
Yep. And they're going to play. I mean, look, they're going to run into some team that holds them to like 38 at some point this year, right?
Yeah, I just misread the stat. The stat was the Buffaloes entered Saturday averaging just 55 rushing yards per game, and they had 193. So that is the discrepancy there. I thought
they haven't been able to run it on anybody,
total.
and they weren't great at running it, but they finally. I think Colorado running the ball on Saturday had a lot more to do with USC than anything Colorado did. I think Ari has improved, but I mean, I think Colorado has improved running the ball, but I mean, USC that front is pretty soft.
All right, guys, let's get to another voicemail.
Hey, it's John Skolsky in Spain and Iron Wife. Can anyone tell me with a high to absolute degree of confidence that Georgia is going to finish in the top 4 this year? That both Ohio State and Michigan are going to finish in the top 4 this year, that Texas, USC, and Alabama are going to finish in the top 4 this year, that Oregon and Washington are going to? No, of course not. Can you tell me with a high to absolute degree of confidence that Georgia is going to finish in the top 12, that both Ohio State and Michigan are going to finish in the top 12, that Alabama, Texas, probably USC, one or both of Oregon or Washington are going to finish in the top 12? Of course you can. I'll bet my left Buckeye that at least 6 of those 8 teams finish in the top 12. That's half the playoff field decided at the end of September. Some of my worst memories in life are losing to Michigan State in 98. Again, our doors blown off us by Iowa and Purdue in the Urban Meyer days when we had championship caliber teams. When we go to a 14 playoff, those days are over. That mad scramble to the top like 2007, like this year, those days are over. And nobody's talking about this. This sport is not going to be better off with a 12-team playoff, and everybody's acting like it is. Oh, it's infuriating. I can't sleep. Sorry for yelling. I woke up my girlfriend. She said I had to apologize.
That was a good impression, Ari. I'm glad. I didn't realize you were sending.
We have a lot of submissions
voicemails
for the Sunday Sound Off. Ari, you don't have to call in and leave voicemails on this show.
Yeah, I'm sorry, John from
We got
Spain.
plenty
That
of
was
guys.
a good impression.
I'm not
but
going
we
to
don't
say
need
anything
Ari.
because listen. I don't know if my judgment is skewed, and I've been told this a lot that my time in the Ohio State bubble has skewed my view of the sport. So let's take that into account for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State's regular seasons are pointless now. Like, they don't even play a regular season anymore. They could lose 2 or even 3 times and probably still finish in the top 12. So if you're an Ohio State fan, like I think this person is, I would be upset with it too because they don't get to enjoy the rate. There's nothing to get excited about anymore. We'll just catch you up at the end of the year, and hopefully they make a run in December. But the season that they enjoy now is gone. And that is a fact. So if you don't, you think the 12-team playoff is better, that's fine. But there are Alabama fans, Georgia fans, Ohio State fans, and whatever powerhouses are being built right now that no longer get to enjoy the regular season because losses and wins don't matter.
I found that striking a little yesterday covering a Michigan game. Already, that kind of finally set in for me a little. Like Michigan has reached that level now that they only have 2 or 3 games that matter this year.
And then when you get to the 12-team playoff, it doesn't matter if they
question.
win those.
Right.
This is an existential question or an existential question for the entire sport. And I think, Ari, what we're talking about here is a trade-off. And you have your eyes so closely fixed on that specific
on
negative.
the best teams that are actually equipped to win it.
But here's the thing. So you're not wrong in that you say the Ohio States and the Georgias and the Alabamas, all these
the
big
teams
programs
that can win the national championship. Yes.
Okay, yes.
And that's what the playoff is for, designed to crown a champion.
But, Ari, here's the trade-off. There might be slight apathy. I think this sport and those places that are great is so culturally ingrained that even if you think the regular season is lessened, you are not going to do something else with your fall Saturdays if you care about those teams. You're just not. It's just what you do. And I think that the trade-off of losing that, which I think is true, and adding in this insane event at the end of the season that is going to be absolutely unbelievable, and trading that for a hope for a lot of programs that could never get in the playoff. That is a trade-off that I'm willing to make. What you talk about when you talk about hating the 12-team playoff, you're not wrong, but you're missing the things that can get added into it, which is the event itself and being able to give entrance and let teams play for it.
Event itself used to be the freaking season. That's my point. So if you don't see that, that's fine.
You're going to have a slight apathy.
Okay.
You will have maybe some drop off, but you will not. I just don't think that there's a reckoning coming for the sport where people, I think I agree with you that those games will have less stakes and they'll be less important, but I think people will still enjoy it, still embrace it, and it will still be a huge part of what we do.
Yeah, when Georgia was losing to Auburn on Saturday, that was really fun, wasn't it?
It was entertaining.
It won't matter
It
next
seems
year.
to me like what Ari's saying is don't serve me crepes and call them pancakes.
Right. Everyone's, and I just don't want to hear about how awesome the end of the year event is when I love the whole year event.
But right, not everyone's Ohio State.
Season.
The Michigan States of the world, Michigan State's a bad example.
Michigan State made the playoff and did it.
I know, they did accidentally make it. But the Texas Techs of the world, or
they certainly can finish in the top 4. TCU just made it to the national championship game, bro. And I'm saying, making it into the Final Four is an accomplishment.
You gotta be smoking something to truly believe that a lot of the 70 biggest programs in the country could make the top 4. If there's one take of mine you agree with, half of those programs, you have a less than 5% chance on your best day of getting there. Okay, so this is
if that's the case, then why are you so goddamn concerned about making a system that works for them?
Because I like the idea of, okay, I don't have to finish my season in the Citrus Bowl or whatever. I can go play and give my team a shot. And that beating a team, Ari, and beating one of these big teams, even if you lose, you get smacked around later. Beating that team is going to be way more satisfying to the second-class citizens of the sport. And I don't mean that as an insult. I just mean that as a reality. That is way better than going to the Citrus Bowl and beating, Michigan State or whatever. It's going to be better.
I fundamentally disagree with the notion that you're speaking for the little guy by saying it's impossible that they reach the top 4 and then talking about how awesome it's going to be for them when they get to number 11. As if getting to 4 and 11 is that big of a difference.
But you get to play for your life, Ari. You don't get sent to a bowl game that people really don't care about and a bunch of players are going to opt out for. You get to play for your life. And that is a powerful thing. And that is a real thing. Not only for the schools
I just can't believe that you could
but
scoff at the notion that Texas Tech could make the playoff when you picked them to win the Big 12 this year and we're a year removed from TCU playing in the national title game. It blows my mind.
I'm
That's
just
wrong.
using it as
You're
an
wrong.
example. I'm not talking about Texas Tech specifically. I'm talking about the Texas Techs, the NC States of the world. A lot of these places that are proud places and win a bunch of games traditionally,
then get better,
but are not going to get in the playoff.
Get better.
There's only so many 5 stars. You should know this.
That doesn't matter to half the people listening to the podcast.
It matters to me.
It doesn't matter anymore.
In the real world.
Now that we have the transfer portal and Florida State's number 20 in the team talent composite.
It shouldn't take a bunch of things convoluting on one thing for a team like Cincinnati to get to the playoff. This is a good thing for a lot of the the middle class of the sport. And also for me personally, as somebody who hates the fact that you literally have 60 teams in the sport that could go 12-0 and not even sniff the playoff, I like that we have that actual access and you got to win it. Ari, I just think at the end of the season, if you're playing for your life against anybody, that winning that game matters more. It's not all about the national championship, Ari. It's just not.
You want to organized the way we crown a national championship and then say it's not about the championship?
It's the same thing. You're going to get the same types of champions, but I think you're going to get a more satisfying product for them, for schools that are probably not going to be able to win a championship.
I'm going to let Max cook here in a second because he took that whole thing in. But Shaka Cummings here.
I wasn't going to interrupt you guys. Come on.
I want to hear what you have to say. I think you're on Dave's side, and that's fine. I think everybody thinks I'm crazy. But Shaka Cummings here
crazy,
said,
Ari.
Kentucky would love to be 11 in the 12-team field, Ari.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. I would like to drive a Rolls Royce.
So, Ari, you really I want to let Max, but you really think that Kentucky going to the Sugar Bowl and beating some team, beating Baylor or whatever, would be more satisfying than knocking off a top 4 team and then getting whacked?
What I'm saying is, if Kentucky ever built it good enough to somehow achieve the 4 seed in the college football playoff field as a 4-team field, the way that TCU did, the way that Michigan did, the way that Michigan State did, the way that Cincinnati did, the way that Washington did, that would mean more to that program than getting in as the 11 because we're letting everybody in. I don't want to give the slow kid on the youth soccer team doesn't get a trophy. There's winners and losers in life. There's winners and losers in life. Kentucky's been a loser. If you want a trophy, you want to hang a banner, then go fucking win. That's what I think. That's what I think.
You don't think that it's better? You would, if so.
I think what Michigan accomplished on the field the last 2 years is fundamentally more valuable than anything any of these second-rate programs that you're trying to expand for can accomplish in the future because you're belittling the achievement.
I totally disagree. If you think that a team like Cincinnati, if they make the top 4 and they get punked by Bama, that outcome is more satisfying to that program than getting in as like an 8 seed and hosting a playoff game and beating some other team, or getting in as an 11 seed and
getting in as a 4 seed is infinitely more amazing for that program to climb that mountaintop and join that exclusive club and be the first group of 5 team to do it.
Winning a game in the postseason.
Listen, buddy, their season's going to end the same way it ended in the 4-team field. They might get to beat West Virginia on the way, but they're going to play Georgia and they're going to get their ass kicked at the end of the year. That's what's going to happen. Getting into that 4 team, they can hang a banner. That program was made because of that run. And the fact that you're like discounting it is like offensive.
I'm not discounting it. I'm saying it's more satisfying to get in the 12 and win a game. Wrong. It's not.
Yeah, it is.
Get in the 4 team, they're treated the other way. Get in the 12 and win your way into the 4.
I don't argue that way where I just say you're wrong, but like that is unbelievable. The sacrifice, the achievement of what Jim Harbaugh's program did to overcome what people said was impossible, which was to beat Ohio State, but to do it 2 years in a row in a resounding victory, to climb that mountaintop, to get into the playoff in the 4-team field and do it that way is the most unbelievable achievement a program could make. And it wouldn't feel nearly as good as if they would have gotten in as an 8 seed or a 9 seed into 2027.
But if you won your way into the Final Four, you can still have 4 teams at the end. If you win your way into the Final Four or win your way to the championship.
But you're saying you don't want to expand the playoff, or you want to expand the playoff because the teams, 50% of them have no chance of ever getting to the Final Four is in the current system. And then you're going to try to sell me on the notion that they're going to make it as the 8 and win their way to 4 when they can't get into the 4 now?
No, but you should get the chance to play for your life. College football's postseason.
They do. Every Saturday in the regular season, they play for their life. That's the sport. You cover it.
So what about TCU and Boise and all these teams that could go 12-0 and they said, oh, thanks.
What about TCU? That's a good example. What about them?
No, but I'm talking about these teams in the past, Ari, that did everything they could on the field and didn't even get a chance. We get a chance now.
Yeah. Cincinnati, I thought did a good job.
I understand why Rubenstein left the pod early last week. Keep going, guys.
Keep going. No, I just I get so frustrated because as I argue about this, physically cannot comprehend what you're saying. Like, it blows my mind that a person could think what you think. And maybe I'm wrong and I'm the asshole and I'm the guy that everyone's like, I cannot believe he thinks this way. But it's the one thing, the sad story, UCF got left out a year where they went undefeated and
that's not a sad story. That's injustice, sorry.
And then the team that they got left out for won the national championship that year. I know
then
it's
they beat
sad.
Auburn. It was a nice moment, and it didn't get them anywhere. They didn't get to play for their life.
I understand, and I wish in a more better world that we could move it to 6, and then enjoy the highest ranked group of 5 or whatever. I think 6 would be the perfect number. 12 is ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. It's participation trophy written all over it. all these teams that are too crappy to get in now. You can get in now because we changed the system for you. Now go think you're a winner because we changed the parameters
But no,
of the sport.
it's not going to be, Ari. It's not going to be. Making the playoff will be lessened. And then you got to win games in the playoff, but you get a chance that you never got before. And doing that is better than playing.
I would just argue that chance occurs every Saturday in the fall, and it's called the season.
To some degree.
I just think that's we cover the sport. That's how it's set up. If you're really good on Saturdays in the fall, you'll get your chance. And if you lose crappy teams, you won't.
And then sometimes you win all your and they don't let you in.
Yeah, one time out of like every 100 years that happens to a team that's already we know that isn't built the same way as the teams that win it. But yeah.
Max, what are your thoughts?
Hey guys, I'm still here.
All right, yeah, I'm done.
What's up?
Yeah, Kenneth Blankenship I'm gonna
I would say I'll keep it short. I usually side with the Evans of the world on this one, but Ari was better at arguing it today. I would say I actually listened to John from Spain and his question, and I'd love to engage on the question if we could for a second.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you go.
Okay,
I'm done for the rest of the show. I yelled too much. I want
listen, okay? Because I know it's fun. It's like you guys get so much enjoyment out of like arguing this stuff theoretically. It's happening next year, so let's do the practical exercise. Okay.
Yeah.
How many of these 12 today are locks? Because that's what the call is about, right? So,
well, the question too is how are they going to do it next year? Now that the conferences are going to be different, I don't know the answer to that.
So let's just do this right now. Just I'll keep count on my hand.
Okay.
Here, okay. Fine. Okay. All right. Is Georgia a lock today? Is Georgia a lock to make the 12-team playoff?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we're going to say lock in that it's 100% or over 80%.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
100%.
We're not doing probably. We're doing.
You think they're going to lose 3 games this year?
No, but if they lose 2 games and you look up at their resume, no, you look up at their resume at the end of the year. The committee's not going to let them in. They're not going to have the resume to get in with 2 losses. No way.
All right, so you're saying no. No, they've made it more complicated. I have to write both your answers down. Okay. All right.
Well, because he's trying to like say that if Georgia loses twice. I don't think that's going to happen. So I'm just going to live in the real world.
They were down double digits at halftime to South Carolina, and Auburn had them on the ropes. They can lose. This is not a fully formed Georgia team. There's a bunch of good teams still in the SEC.
Okay, Michigan. Is Michigan a lock to make the 12-team playoff?
Yes.
You don't think that it's every bit as likely that Michigan loses to Ohio State and Penn State that it is than Georgia to lose to South Carolina-like teams? You're driving me crazy.
I don't know.
Everybody should be no for you. If you're going to leave 2 losses on the table for Georgia, then everybody's no for you.
We haven't seen a lot from Georgia. I think we can all admit that.
So we're going, Ari, you're not.
Yes.
You're not saying
mine's
Michigan's
a yes.
lock. You're saying yes. Okay.
Because I don't think they're going to lose 3 times.
Is Texas a lock to make the 12-team playoff?
Why are you doing this to me?
Yes. I'll do it. I'll go with you, Ari. Yes. Yes.
If you would have said no, I would have just thrown my microphone.
Okay, is Florida State a lock to make a 12-team playoff this year?
Yes, because the ACC I don't believe in. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Is Ohio State a lock to make a 12-team playoff this year?
No, if we're going to say 100%,
and I'm not predicting.
No.
We're just saying today. 100%.
Well, because
100%
you can't say yes to multiple Big Ten teams, can you?
Yes, you can.
Just based on the rules?
Team, yeah, you can. Yeah, in a 12 team.
In a 12 team, you can. Yep.
Then yes, they're a lock.
Okay. Is Penn State a lock? Penn State's a no?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Washington. Is Washington a lock?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. My 2 are going to be, wait.
You can pick 2 Pac-12 schools. That's okay.
Yeah, my 2 Pac-12 schools will be Washington and Oregon, and USC will not be a lock for them.
All right, so we're saying yes to them.
I'm with Ari on this.
So Oregon,
yes.
Yes or no?
Yes. And we're both saying no on USC.
Yeah.
Okay. You're both saying yes on Oregon.
Yes.
I don't even know if that makes sense.
Is Notre Dame a lock for a 12-team playoff?
Yes.
I don't think that what we just said made sense, Dave. We can't say that Oregon. Okay.
We're in a weird space where we're saying 100%, and I don't think it's 100% on a lot of these.
Because you can't say that Washington and because that means that you're 100% saying that USC is out, which I think is stupid.
No, I'm just saying they're not a lock.
But if you're saying 2 teams from the Pac-12 are locks at 100%,
This is a
then you're
deep
saying
Pac-12 already. They could get 3 in easily.
okay.
People respect
All right.
the Pac-12 this year.
Okay.
Which would be
Maybe
one of the
4,
most fun
quite frankly.
angles of a 12-team playoff this year is can the 3 Pac-12 schools in the last year of the Pac-12 go
What
win the
about
playoff?
4? What about 4?
Maybe 4. That would be a good playoff event, if you ask me. But,
Yes.
Yeah, that's too bad we
Okay,
don't
Notre
get to watch
Dame,
all
yes
those
or
teams
no?
play in November.
Notre Dame, yes or no?
It's like we already get that. Notre Dame, I would say yes.
Yeah, I'll say yes to Notre Dame.
Wow. Okay. Alabama,
You
yes
have-
or no?
No.
Sorry.
No.
No?
I guess no. Yeah. I mean, I can't say yes for 15 times.
All right. Oklahoma, yes or no?
No.
No.
Not today, but that's okay. That doesn't mean they can't make it. I guess the last one would be, I don't know, North Carolina. Is there another one you want to throw in there?
No. Nobody else is going to be a lock. Nobody else can be a lock.
Okay, so the only ones you guys said no to were Penn State, USC, and Alabama.
In Georgia.
I mean, that's 8 locks there, guys.
Isn't that kind of how the world's going to be?
Maybe.
I'm not. Look, I think you're probably right about most of these, right? You can't really see a bunch of these falling way outside the top 15 or anything.
And one thing I'll just say that we're also underrating.
And I didn't give
seeding
you
is-
Fresno State. You can lock them right now if you want to, but
Yeah, I won't, but they'll be a compelling.
We'd have to have one
factor.
spot to a group of 5 teams so that teams like UCF don't get their.
So
feelings
Ari,
hurt
do you not think seeding's going to matter? Hosting games.
I think that
versus one on
seeding
the
will
road?
matter, and it'll be what we have to argue about on the show, but it'll be so less impactful than the stakes that we already argue about that it won't.
But I'm
hit the
okay
same.
with increasing access.
so is
and
the
getting
fun of
the
it
event.
now, Ubben? If we take this, if you guys believe 8 of them are locks, then the fun of it is just who are the last 4, and that's what we're gonna spend October and November on.
Well, I don't know about
Yes.
8 of the. I mean, I don't know that we're going to have that many locks. I think we're being generous with the locks,
Yeah.
just to speed up the thought exercise. But
Guess what though? It would be a great 12 team this year.
Do you
Those
know
are
what?
great teams. We're
yeah.
not doing the whole like I don't know.
But here's the
Maybe
thing.
There's only 10 good teams this year. Like that would be.
There's a lot of really good teams.
The thing that I can't parse through, and I have the hardest time with, and I want one of you two to help me right now in a calm manner. Max and you just agreed that it'd be really fun to see if the Pac-12 could get 3 or 4 teams in.
Mhm.
It's like, how is that any more fun than watching them kick the shit out of each other in November?
You get to do
figure it
both.
out?
You get to do both.
No, then the first one doesn't count because it doesn't matter.
It
That's the
does.
thing that doesn't. It's like we already get the 12-team playoff. It's happening in November this year.
Do you
That's
not
the
enjoy
thing I don't
conference
understand.
tournaments in basketball, which truly don't matter, but they're still very
I
fun?
mean, they're fun to gamble on, but do people care about them? I don't know. I hate when people bring up college basketball because no one watches any of the games because they don't matter. It's the worst comparison. The only thing that's fun about college basketball is the NCAA tournament because of the crazy stuff that happens. How many random West Virginia, Kansas games are you watching on Tuesday night in December? It doesn't matter who wins.
NFL's ratings do pretty well, Ari. People watch those games.
And my favorite thing about college football is that it's not the NFL.
My favorite thing is that the offenses and cultures are diverse, but also that.
Well, what is it? Offenses and types of people and areas in geography and conference and all the things that make college football great. It's so much more sterile in the league. Everybody's the same in the league. The spreads are 3. They all draft from the same pool. And, it's just how much of a difference is there between playing for the Denver Broncos and playing for the New York Giants? Like, it's the same. It's not nearly as different as it would be to play for UCLA and Maryland.
Here's a question that I'm scared to ask you, Ari. I'm scared to ask
You
this.
see this? Ari's been
Do you
94.
think college football would be better if there was a way to more equitably distribute talent?
Yes.
Then what are we
Yeah.
doing, Ari? There you go. There you go.
I think
The
it would.
playoff
I
gives
think
you
that. I think that the 4-team field that we're gonna have to choose from this year, with the teams that we have to choose from, is peak college football, and and that's my call. I'm excited we get that this year. Like, we don't know
That's a
who's
good
gonna win it
reveal,
all.
That was a good reveal.
Yeah.
A good callback.
There you go.
We
That's
we don't know who's gonna win the national title this year. We don't even know who the 4 teams are gonna be. All the conferences are up in the air. There's more parity this year than there's ever been before. And boy, am I happy that we get to debate it on the show. We get to talk about it, and we get to see these teams beat the crap out of each other on the field in the regular season in order to get to the Final Four. Because unlike most people, I don't know, the committee gets it right every year, and they will get it right this year. And when they do, it'll be because of the results on the field, and the games are going to be a hell of a lot of fun. And to me, like, I just don't know how you can disagree with that. I just don't.
I'm starting to think this year's going to be like 2017, where at the end of it, it'll be Georgia at the top, and they're going to be like, well, we weren't even really the best team this year, but everybody else just kind of screwed up, and got it.
It would be kind of interesting too if just one of the super teams win the national championship this year. I'll just be like, okay, but like, I just don't know if there are super teams this year, and in that
the ones that are super teams are turning over at the most important position. I think it's almost maybe just that simple.
In 2016, Ari is valid, but with NIL and transfer portal, we have seen talent has distributed in 12 teams is the right amount. Sorry. I guess just hoping that teams like Florida State win their games that they have on their schedule is just too much to ask. We should just let them in. We shouldn't have them be good first. We just let them in because it's more. I can't do this anymore. I honestly have no idea how
you're not wrong. The thing is, Ari, in your points, you're not wrong, but you are totally underrating the positives. That's my Ari take. I agree with everything you say, but I think you are in denial of how great the things that it will add is.
I think what we're adding already exists. We're just calling it something different. That's why I'm annoyed. We're subtracting the regular season, and all we're getting back is what we already have, and calling it something different.
I like at its core, I like the idea of teams, more of them getting to play for their life.
Yeah, you and I have different personalities.
I think the things you're saying are right, Ari, and I think you're still gonna love it.
I'm gonna love it. When like, listen, like, that's the thing that's so funny. If you think that I'm not going to want to watch it when it comes out, like, that's not what I'm saying. It's college football. It's going to be a awesome tournament. I want to see all those teams that we said were locks play each other.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. We're going to get to see a lot of those already. We're going to get to see that the Pac-12 is going to sort itself out, and it's going to be awesome. And it's going to mean something when it does. When Washington plays Oregon, and when USC plays Oregon, and when USC plays Washington, the way that those games pan out will decide who makes the playoff. We don't need the expanded playoff to get there. We will get there this year the right way. And guess what? We will reward the winners. It's sports, and the winner will advance. Not everybody gets to feel good.
All right, what if Michael Penix tweaks his ankle and misses the USC game, and they lose, and they get squeezed out of the 14 playoff?
Then it might be like Texas did when Colt McCoy blew his leg out on the first drive of the national championship game, or when shoulder, whatever it was. It was 20 years ago.
You're a bad Texas.
Your listeners, Colt McCoy still has two legs.
Yeah. Or when Ted Ginn's ankle erupted on a celebration on the opening kickoff, or any other injury that happens in sports all the time. It's unfortunate. Okay, I think our producer is just moving us on without asking. So, Shannon E. via The Athletic. It is a huge RRR at the Cotton Bowl in Week 6. Early line is Texas -3.5. What say you? I'll let you guys cook.
I didn't realize that we had
too. Timby2, great comment. Ari spent $94 on pumpkins. What does he know? I just forgot to read that one off.
I have to say before we go, if you have not seen, in the honor of the Red River Rivalry, if you have not seen RRR on Netflix, you should amend that immediately. I watched it on paternity leave. It's incredible. Ari, you would love it. Max, you probably would like it. It's great.
Why would I love it and he might like it? What is the thing? Yeah.
Oh my God. If we're gonna do an episode with the 12-team playoff, you can't get Ari started on movies at the end of the podcast.
I forgot about Ari's movie takes.
No, documentaries don't fall under that.
Unfortunately, I'm with Ari on his movie takes. We are in alignment on this. But
oh my gosh.
The Red River Rivalry. It feels like this game is either like a lot of the time it's either like playing for unbelievable amount, or it just is kind of sad. Like, this event is so huge all the time that if there's no real stakes, it kind of feels like what are we doing here? But in games like this, we have two really good teams with a lot to prove, and two good quarterbacks, and two teams that I don't know what's going to happen in this game. I can't wait for it. I'm very excited. Certainly Texas should be a betting favorite. I am very skeptical of Oklahoma's offense against capable defenses, and I think that will be the difference in this game. But I can't wait to these two teams on the field, together.
Are you going, Max?
No, my brother's getting married this weekend, so I'm
nice.
off. Yeah. By the way, Fletcher's Corny Dog is tremendous. Ari, go get you.
Yeah, I got to seek one out. I'm gonna go to.
I'm not like a guy who has corn dogs in the freezer at my house or anything, but they are elite corn dogs. Okay.
Oven is like all you got to do is add some chocolate syrup to that thing, and it's perfect. Okay, last written submission, then we'll get out of here.
Hold on.
Oh,
Red River.
Okay. Yeah, Red River. Go ahead.
2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. Those were all like awesome Red River games. Like we've had a really good run lately up until last year when Oklahoma did not have like a, Power 5 caliber quarterback they could play in the game. I think 49-0 is something that has been whispered or screamed into the ears of Oklahoma players all year long. They're going to come out pissed. These are both like top 15 defenses right now. But I kind of wonder if both offenses are going to kind of get whatever they want in that game. And it's going to be another like 55-48 kind of game. But I can't wait. It's going to be incredible. And I probably will not get to watch like the second half of it. So it breaks my heart.
All right. My brother got married. Max, my brother got married on the last Saturday of the 2014 season. Where Baylor and TCU were both playing for it. I was going to do both games, and I was doing TV for Fox at the time, and I had to tell my producer, hey, I know this is probably the biggest weekend of Big 12 football in a long time. I will not be there. Yeah, and it was so, yeah, I didn't get to see – I watched like a little bit of that TCU-Iowa State game in the morning, and I did not get to see any of Baylor-Texas at night. So I was going to attend both.
That's got to be maybe the worst luck ever.
I was at the Baylor-Texas one, and it was like a really icy – it was
freezing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I feel like I wouldn't have gone to my brother's wedding if it came on that day. That was what my beat was. But you're better brothers than I am. That was
you mean like in a 14 playoff year or a 12-team playoff year?
Well, a 12
team,
that's the thing. They both would have gotten in at the 12.
You've wound him back up.
There's no point in even worrying about it. They're in. It's like Oprah. I got one for you. I got a spot for you. Check under your chair. There's a playoff spot for you.
So I just check my phone at the end of the game. I see, you played them close. They're in.
Yeah, that's it.
Ari, enjoy your bowl games with all the opt-outs this year.
Yeah,
it's gonna be the last
I hope that when you coach soccer, that everybody on the team tries really hard and everybody has a lot of fun. And at the end,
Orange
everybody's
slices,
a winner.
baby.
Yeah, everybody wins. Hey, listen, you know who everybody wins? Everybody wins when they listen to the show. Thank you so much for indulging. I didn't know that question was coming. And when it did, I kind of knew there was no shot we were finishing in an hour. I get really wound up about it. You know what I love about it too is there's going to be people on your side, Dave, who are like, yeah, Dave. And there's going to be people on my side, I think. Maybe
the right
fewer.
people and the wrong people.
Yeah, and tomorrow when the column comes out, 571 comments, and some will be I'm a genius, and some will tell me it's clickbait, but we'll get to where we need to go. I think it's a very important discussion, but at the end of the day, it's changing. So,
Ari, did you kind of Mad Libs that one? Was that just sitting in the drafts and you just kind of had to plug in the teams and the rankings?
Yeah, that's kind of how I do it every day. But all right, guys, thank you so much for listening to Until Saturday. Be sure to follow the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and of course, leave a 5-star review if you could find it in your kind heart to do so after that screaming of an episode. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube and on the podcast channel. We go live on YouTube every Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday for our live streams. Subscribe to the Until Saturday newsletter. All of that can be found in the show's description. I'm excited for next week. We will be right back with you starting on Monday and getting you prepared for next weekend. For Max Olson, Dave Ubben, I'm Ari Wasserman. That was the latest edition of Until Saturday.